He's not just giving us a good thing. He prepares us for that good thing. That's his mercy and his kindness. So while it is tough, while it is messy, while it is hard, it's like he's not just going to throw you out there like, hey, yeah, you have the potential to do this thing. So go ahead, go figure it out. Nah, he is good. So he's going to take his time and he's going to allow the circumstances that need to come to fruition for you to be ready. And when it's his time, it's his time.
Yeah, and that's not to say that God just throws us out there to live a messy life. I think it gets messy and it feels messy because it's a shock.
Yeah.
Because when something is started in this, there's a cycle already, and then here comes God to bring order, it shocks the cycle. It interrupts the cycle.
Yeah.
And so it feels frantic. It feels like, whoa. Sometimes it's like, whoa. It's overstimulating maybe. Other times it's a relief. Other times it's like, oh, I feel like I can breathe again.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not like God says, here, take some mess. Take messiness. Let me throw messiness at you. That's not how God sees it at all. He's like, take some goodness. Here's some goodness.
Wow.
And you'll learn to see why it's good. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Good, Brave, and Heroic channel podcast things. My name is Joanna, or Joe, or Nina, or the Good, Brave, Heroic lady, the always pregnant lady. Whatever. And here I have my husband. I will say his name.
The Good, Brave, Heroic guy.
Eric. And yeah, I hope that today's conversation is relatable, a good one for you to listen to all the way through. And yeah, you want to introduce the topic?
Yeah, because listening all the way through definitely helps the channel.
And hopefully you.
and if it doesn't, it still helps the channel. And hopefully you was hilarious. But yes, that's exactly the hope and the sentiment. You know, for anybody who's on the channel, who's listening to the episodes. And today we're going to be talking about, our last episode was the messy church. So why are you laughing? You thought I forgot?
Yeah. So that was a pause.
No, because my brain went in that direction for a second about how last time we talked about the messy church, and now we're going to talk about messy life. Or really, it's the messiness of life, how life can get really hectic sometimes. And you know what's okay? Before we even start talking,
what have we been doing?
Like before we get into like the nitty gritty of the episode, right? You tell me if this is the same sentiment for you. It's like, no matter what stage of life I'm in, it always feels messy and hectic. It's like, ah! And I look back at different phases of my life and how I approach life now, and I'm just like, bruh, if I would have just done some of the things I'm doing now, like now I'm doing things to like, not just make it by, but be able to like keep up. If I would have done those things back then, I'd have been good. You know, like waking up early in the morning, being more disciplined about my day, all of those different things. Like, you're not saying anything, so I'm just kind of just like continuing to say it. So I'm like, oh, maybe it's just me. If it's just me, just let me know. Don't just let me keep talking, because I'm just like, what is she gonna be like? Yeah, you know what? It was like that for me too.
I have zero regrets. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, my experience isn't the same. Like I didn't have to work on the same things or on all of the same things, but for me, it always feels like not enough.
Yeah.
So it always feels like,
feels really unholy to say that.
I know it does. Yeah. It really does. Especially when that's the thing that God is always like.
But that's how
Let's change that narrative. Let's change that narrative.
Right.
Hashtag JAG sermons. CSCC Sundays. He preached on narratives. It was really good. Just listen to it. Anyway, but yeah, like I it never feels like enough, and it always feels like it could be better, and it always feels like, well, if I would have done, well, if I would have, I should have, and I could have, which really just draws out the perfectionist in me, which for me is not a good thing.
Yeah.
And so I have to analyze who's speaking. Is it God correcting me? Is it God telling me, hey, this is something we need to work on? Or is it me just driving myself insane? We'll never know.
Don't know.
No,
Yeah,
I'm just kidding. we can know.
The world will never know.
But it can get really hectic in my head when I think about it that way. So I'm trying to think of something like that for me, because I think my struggle is it could have been better.
What could have been better?
Anything could have been better.
Okay.
Like even just sitting down to do this, I was like, while he was doing that, I could have put on a little something because I look a little tired. I could have put something on my face to make myself look a little better. Or man, what are people gonna think? Like they saw me in that fire photo shoot for my maternity pictures, and then here I am looking like Casper. Right? And it's like, does that matter? Does it really matter that much? Who cares? But yeah, I'm just rambling at this point.
You were rambling.
I was.
And I was letting you.
I saw.
You know, for me, it's okay to ramble, by the way. I ramble all the time. For me, one of the things that makes me think about that is the fact that, you know, when you look at our life now, right? Our life now is very busy. And
it's always busy.
Yeah, it's always busy. It's very involved. And so there's an element of what I was referring to where it's like I think back to those times and I wish I could talk to my younger self and be like, hey, be a little bit more diligent in this and that. You don't have to be perfect, but hey, you know, manage your time just a little bit, you know, schedule your day, wake up a little bit earlier, don't sleep in so much, you know, all of those little things that could have really impacted things for me. And obviously you learn things in life, and that's how life is. You learn and you live and you learn, like they say, right? Now having 2 kids with the third being born anytime now, I look at all of the things that I have to manage and how that already as a basis demands so much from me. Then I look at the things that, there's 2 things I look at: things that I want to do and the things that I have to do. And those are a little bit different than, like, for example, I have to take care of Kaya because I'm her dad. And if I don't, she can't take care of herself, right? But there's that, right under that, there's the layer of having to work, right? You know, I don't know if that makes sense, where it's like, yeah, work is something I have to do. But if it came down to it, you could figure out some crazy way, right, where you don't work. I don't feel like I'm making sense, but I look at the things that are outside of my immediate need. Even though work is technically one of those, it's like, for me, the fact that I'm building a business makes it a little bit different, where I could just go and get a regular job, 9 to 5. I'm building a business, so it feels like it's both something I have to do and something I want to do, in a sense.
The way I think about it is you need to do because you need money to survive. So.
Yes. No, it is. And that's what I'm trying to say. It's more nuanced than I have the ability to explain. But so I look at that and I'm just like, man, okay, so my job is pulling me in all of these different directions. And then the things I want to do, which also have an element of need to them as well, like wanting to get better in my fitness, right? There's a deep want on my part for it. And right now, like I've been plateauing for the last few weeks. I've been stuck at the 30 mark. Like I lost 30 pounds and I just been stuck. And I have so much more to lose. And while there's also the element of needing to do that for longevity reasons. So there's all of this is like so mixed in. And in life, we look at all of these different things, the things that we want, need, feel like our needs, but are really wants, feel like our wants, but are really needs, or have an element of both. And then things that are definitely needs. It's so complicated. And of course, in a podcast episode about how life gets messy should be a little bit messy, right? And us being able to explain it. But there's this element of all of those things being a piece of your life and you just feeling like you're juggling 10 balls of fire in the air that have piranhas attached to them that are trying to eat your hand while you throw them. And if you drop one, a trap door opens that makes you fall
You're so dramatic.
An ocean of
You're so dramatic.
Screaming.
There's more.
Alligators.
You couldn't just fall in the ocean?
No. The alligators are more.
They had to be screaming alligators?
Screaming alligators, yes.
Never heard an alligator scream.
Hey, this is my hypothetical situation.
Very dramatic one.
Anyway, so it's like that's the difficulty in it. And I don't like this might be a podcast where I don't really got answers for you, dog. Like I don't got answers. I'm just having a conversation with my wife about it, and God hopefully shows up in a way because it's hard. It's hard at times to, and like by no means do I want to have like this persona of, oh, I have it all figured out, you know, because I think that that's what can be really detrimental at times where people present like they have it all figured out. And then you need to balance things like your mental health, and you need to balance in your time with family, your time with your friends, time at church. You need to balance your self-care. And it just always feels like there's not enough time.
What's funny is when you are living it out in the moment, it never feels like enough time. And it always feels like there's so much that needs to be done and that you wish you could do. And then a year, 5 years, 10 years down the line, you look back and you're like, oh, I could have done this.
Yeah.
I could have.
That's what I'm saying.
If I did it like this.
I wish I just had all the answers.
But I think that that's the chaotic beauty of life, I guess, that you don't have it figured out. Mm-hmm. And the need for God in all that, because as much as disciplined as you might be, like we're still human and we have the ability to be impulsive.
Yeah. As
disciplined as I might be with my money, I will get a random urge to be like, let's book a flight somewhere and go.
Yeah.
And if we could, I would. I certainly would. If I get that deep enough urge. So we're always going to have this element of, oh, we could have done it this way, you know, but at the same time, I always think back, and I'll never forget this phrase, this question that my therapist asked me. She asked me, well, did you ask God if this is your assignment?
Yeah.
And so that really helps me to ground myself in the moment, in the circumstance, not the circumstance, because God is above the circumstance, but it helps me to ground myself into, okay, yeah, I want to travel the world, or I want to do this, or I want to do that. I want to be a stay-at-home mom. I want to homeschool my kids. I want to make my kids food from scratch all the time, but I also want me time, and I also want to drink my coffee while it's still hot. But then I also want to do all the projects with my kids and teach them Spanish and English and have them be fluent and be super polite. But I also want to be left alone for a little bit. That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a whole lot. And I also want to have date nights.
Right.
Okay, well, right now in this season, what is your assignment? What are you graced with? And I think that helps me every time to calm my everything. And at the same time, it helps me to navigate and accept, well, this is the season I'm in. There will be a time for this or that. And I read this somewhere. I don't remember where. It might have been social media. And it stuck with me forever. Don't compare your like chapter 4 with someone's chapter 30.
Yeah.
You know, like you're seeing this family, this couple traveling with their kids or not with their kids or whatever, but they had to go through what we had to go through with little kids.
Yeah.
We're just not there yet. But it can be like super discouraging. Like, oh my gosh, why am I not there yet?
Right.
And you want to do everything, but it's just always so busy, and it's like it feels like you can never catch up.
I want to take the opportunity to present to you our Patreon page. The reason why I'm sharing it with you in this point is because it's a perfect time for us to talk about the different opportunities that you have to get more connected with the work that we're doing here on Valley of the Heroic. If you are seeking to grow in your faith, if you want to get closer to Jesus, if you want to get more of the different things that we are doing here, then you should definitely check out our Patreon page. On our Patreon page, we have access to exclusive content, exclusive live Q&As, exclusive behind the scenes content, all of this geared towards helping you to grow in your faith. For as little as $5 a month, you can commit to helping us to continue to grow, to reach more people with the content, the creative videos that we're creating for Jesus Christ, so that we can make this sustainable and continue to reach others. I pray that you would consider becoming a member. And either way, I'm glad that you are here and that you are a part of our family. Let's get right back to the episode.
And then you get mad because you're like, there's only 2 days in the weekend. Like, I can only do so much. And you try to fit everything in the weekend. And it's like, it's impossible. Like, you have to rest on the weekend, but you also have to like take care of your home on the weekend. How? I'm rambling again.
No, I was fine. No, that time I don't think you were rambling. It's something that I hear a lot of people, and it falls under one of those topics where a lot more of us are going through it than we are talking about it. Right? Like, with even before, I know we overly harp on social media and the age we live in now, but just because Jan and Bob didn't have Instagram back in the 50s doesn't mean that when they went to a dinner party, they weren't acting like everything was all right. Right. And we always, as human beings, we want to, I don't know why I said Jan and Bob, but shout out to you, Jan and Bob. You guys are living that life. But
they might be on Facebook now.
They are
on Messenger.
Listen, if they still here, they're on Facebook. They ain't on Instagram and TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
But
no, they might be on TikTok.
You never know. But we all, as human beings, we just have a desire, I think, to present well. And you balance that with the truth that you're not supposed to run around just telling everybody about your problems. Like I remember I had a friend who did that. He was just like running around, kind of just like not running around, but he was so open about his troubles and everything he was going through because I think he leaned so far into that it like burned him, and then also it was making people uncomfortable because it's like time and place, right? There's a time and a place for everything.
Yeah.
But I think that a good barometer for us to reach for is for us to constantly make sure, not constantly, but to make sure that we have a healthy dose of somebody that we tell the truth to. You know, somebody who has access to us, somebody who we could be like, yeah, yo, I've been struggling lately. Like, even if there's a season in your life where maybe you don't have as much access to that person, to still have that person is very important. And so, and you know, that can be hard because if life is chaotic and life is like messy, you're super, super busy, you know, that can be tough. If you're the friend, maybe that you're going through a very peaceful season, maybe you should be the one to reach out to your friends that got young kids and be like, yo, you good, bro? Like, hey, you need a coffee? Like, imagine somebody was just like, yo, you guys need a coffee? I just want to drop you off coffee. And we do have friends like that have done stuff like that. And it's always like, yo, it really does become about the small things. So I like have been trying to lean more, especially because because I'm a whole influencer. No, I'm not. Because I have Valley of the Heroic and stuff. I'm just trying to live my life more openly.
And influence.
Anyway. I guess. Anyways, so, but I'm not an influencer. I'm not. I am a content creator. I hear you, even though you're not talking. I hear you. Like, I literally hear her, even though she's not saying a word. So, I forgot what I was saying. But either way, oh, yes, that I'm trying to, like, live my life more outwardly in the ministry aspect of Valley of the Roy, but also with my friends. You know what I'm saying? And with you. And I think that helps. It helps a lot with the weight of having so many things on your plate. Like, you don't need to be carrying everything on your own. Another aspect of that is how important it is to me. I'm doing much better when I'm disciplined specifically about my time with God. Now, my time with God, the only time that really works for me is early mornings. Excuse me, for two reasons. One, it's the only time that's available. It's the only time that's available. The rest of the day is taken, fam. Like, it's work, and then my two wonderful princesses who demand a lot of attention. Probably should say three princesses, but
because you're talking about the third child.
Yes, the third child and the queen of hearts, who demands her share of attention as well, and deserves it. And so, it's the rest of the day. It's like, why do you keep doing that? It was doing that in my last when I was recording earlier too, and I don't even have the thing set for here. Yeah, that makes no sense. So, sorry. The rest of the day is completely taken. It's just as soon as everybody's awake, it's just, you know, the feeling. Yep. And then it's like, oh, it's time to go to sleep. You know, so the mornings only works for that. And two, it's also the only thing that really works for my personality too. Because if people are awake, if people are walking around, if there is the possibility that somebody's going to walk by, I don't feel comfortable enough. I need to be alone. Like, if we had a solitary room somewhere that I could go to, then maybe it would work on other times of the day, but it won't work for me. And so I have to commit to that to set a foundation for my day. And for me specifically, God spoke to me spoken to me multiple times personally and through people that's what he's calling me to in this season. So I have to keep that as holy, because if I don't, in a season where you're like really stretched thin and you have a lot going on, if you don't keep holy what God has called you to keep holy, you run the risk of getting run down, breaking down. What's the word? Burnt out. You know what I'm saying? And God doesn't want that for you. So for me, he hasn't told me, hey, I need you to do self-care. He hasn't told me, like, he hasn't spoken to me specifically about those things. What he's told me is you need to be up at 5 a.m. in the morning and you need to be spending time with me. Whenever I deviate, you can attest to this, things get worse for me. Like just in my own space. And I don't do as well with all the things I'm committed to. And when I'm on track, things go better for me. Like I'm just in a better space. And so, you know, I feel like, I don't know, I just want to share that because some people might be like, yo, I don't understand why things aren't going well for me right now. And my life feels so crazy. Well, it's like, what did God call you to keep holy right now?
Yeah.
And I think we have a tendency, I know for a long time, I had a tendency to just like, not intentionally, but to ignore what God said. Because I think that his command is a request. And I'm not realizing that he's commanding me to do this specific thing for a reason.
That's crazy.
That I may not be aware of.
Mm-hmm.
And yet I feel burnt out and worn down. And he's like, I told you to pray at 5 a.m. every day. Why do you think I did? Did I need to tell you a reason? But you're wondering why you're worn down right now. You're wondering why you can't make ends meet. You're wondering why you can't figure things out. You're wondering why you feel so broken. You're wondering why you feel alone. You're wondering why you feel like there's not enough time in the day. Like all those things, right? And it's like, what did God tell you in this season? Well, God told me in this season, 5 a.m. pray. There's other things he's told me, but the requirement he has placed on me is that, and I need to keep that holy. And when I do keep it holy, I don't feel as stretched thin. Am I stretched thin? Yes, in some ways I am, but I don't feel it as much. I feel like I'm walking in step with Jesus. We all live under the same commands scripturally, but in every season in your life, God is going to tell you something new that he's working on. He's bringing about the fullness of Jesus, the image of Jesus in you. And so for me, discipline was a problem. So what's he calling me to? Discipline. Because Jesus is disciplined. He's calling me to pray. Prayer was a weak point for me. Now, if I pray for less than an hour, I'm like, I wasn't praying. And I'm not talking about literally on my knees. No, I'm interacting with God. I'm reading the word. Maybe I'm listening even to a podcast and God's speaking to it or whatever. But that time with Jesus is a holy thing for me in this season. It is both generally a holy thing, but specifically also a holy thing. And so there might be things that God calls you to in different seasons that you have to commit to. And if you're not committing to them, then you're creating problems for yourself. And you may even be inviting demonic spirits into your process because you open doors with disobedience.
Sounds like rebellion to me.
Sounds like rebellion to me. So it's like, why, like seemingly small commands or big commands, like sometimes God will tell me to do something and it's like a burning, God is like the 5 a.m. one is a big one for me. If I deny that, I'm not okay because I know that I'm walking in disobedience. What's dangerous is when you're walking in disobedience and you're besties with it.
All right, guys, I'm just going to exit this podcast. This is turning into a Valley of the Heroic video now.
That's what's dangerous, because disobedience breeds familiarity. And when you become familiar with disobedience, you think you're doing okay, but you're literally opening doors for the enemy in your life. What does scripture say? Rebellion is as witchcraft. Oh, I'm not doing spells. I'm not sacrificing to idols. No, yes, you are. You're sacrificing to the idol of disobedience. You are the sacrifice. Every time you're disobedient, you are offering yourself up to Satan.
On a platter.
Rebellion is as witchcraft. That's what scripture tells us. So, yeah, life is messy. Life is hard. I thank God it could be worse, said Andy Mineo.
As you were talking, there were a few things that came to my mind. The first thing that came to my mind is, as you were talking, I was reminded of the beginning and how the earth was just dark. It was void. It was empty. And then God brought order. And he created the different boundaries and the different, he colored in the colors, and he added the sounds, and he constructed textures, and he molded things together, brought things to life. He added order. And so when you talk about how the thing for you in the season has been to wake up early in the morning to spend time with him, and how for you it's discipline that he's working on, he brought order into your life in the same way that he brought order to the earth. And for me, it's different. For me, it's managing my time in a different way. It's not like he has to call me out of, I don't know, being too laid back or whatever. If anything, it's the opposite for me. Managing my time in a different way. For me, it's been bringing order to my soul and to my well-being in a different way, because your discipline is still for your well-being.
Yeah.
But for me, it's actually self-care. But from a biblical perspective, I don't want it to be confused with toxic positivity.
Yeah.
Which is a whole other topic that I can just talk about, but I mean like biblically based self-care, where God is the author of my thoughts and what I'm feeling. And when he's not, he anchors me back. And so in that way, he's bringing order to my life. And I think that's what God wants for us all, whatever that looks like, to submit to that, to submit to him so that he can bring order to our lives. The other thing I was thinking of, last night I was reading, I finished Hebrew, so I went to James. And
I just finished James.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm in 1 Peter.
So,
but I kept rereading James like over, and I was just James. Sorry.
So I really like James, so I had to not go to James.
Yeah, I know. Wait, is James your favorite book?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I started reading it, because I asked you that recently.
Yeah.
Next week's Bible study is going to be James.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I started reading James, and it starts off with to count it as joy for going through all the stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And, as I read that now in this circumstance, I'm like, here we go again. Why? Why, God? That sounds crazy. But okay, I got it. I will count it as joy.
Yeah.
And then it continues on to say that it's because it's building endurance.
Mm-hmm.
And then the question dawned on me. What do I need endurance for? What are you preparing me for? Because you don't just need endurance to have endurance.
Yeah.
It's a tool. Why are you trying to create endurance in me? He didn't answer me. He didn't answer me right then and there. But it brought me relief and peace to make me curious and lean into that. And not just see it as something that I was annoyed with, or see it as something like here we go with something else or whatever. It was like, wait, you're caring for me if you're trying to build endurance in me.
Yeah.
If you're trying to build something in me, it's because you want to somehow use it for something that I may or may not know of yet, which may or may not be my business to know yet.
Right.
And then it made me grateful because my Father is trying to set me up for success.
Yeah.
Which made me think about when you were talking about how you need to be present for our kids, how you need to take care of them because they're little. And that's your role as a father. And then I was thinking about how we grow up and there are how intentional we are with our kids and how we try to instill, like you and I analyze like the circumstance or, our kids and their personalities. And we sometimes like assess the situation, talk about, I think we need to work on this or that with Kaya or Lily or whatever. Because we want to set them up. We want to set them up for success. We want to set them up to do well in life and not just ignore those moments. We don't want to just bypass that. Teaching my child endurance or instilling in them endurance might be too painful, so we're just going to bypass it so that they're comfortable. We put them in situations. We talk them through it. We explain to them time and time again until it starts to click so that we can set them up to be disciplined.
Yeah.
Set them up to learn how to cope with things and not go into rage, or how to deal with their emotions without losing it, how to communicate with their friends when they're not mad at their friend, they just need a little space.
Yeah.
That literally just recently happened a couple of weeks ago where Kaya was very frustrated. Still don't know why, but she was playing with a friend and her friend was hurt because she thought she did something. And so I had to explain to Kaya, well, you need to express and communicate to your friend. They didn't do anything to you. You're not feeling okay. You're having big emotions. You're frustrated if that's what it is. And you have to say, I just need a little bit of alone time. I need a little bit of space. And so they like talked it out, verbalized it, and it was great.
Yeah.
It was great. And then Kaya ended up teaching her friend a coping mechanism that we've been teaching her.
Yeah.
Because she saw that her friend was still having big emotions. So she recognized it in her, our 3-year-old, and was like, let me show you.
That's so crazy because you just gave me a whole new understanding of what God is doing by building in endurance, not insurance. God, can I get your insurance, please? Because the insurance I got be tripping. Anyway, that's crazy because as we parent our children, parenting is so weird because you have to be able to also manage yourself, right? Because you will get frustrated and you will become upset in dealing with things that you are familiar with and you are well versed in that your child is not. Like if you are a parent who loses control, because any parent, I think, can lose control, right? It's not that you're a bad parent. You just lost control in a situation. You might catch yourself like, yo, what's wrong with you? Or you might say something like, why are you tripping? Like, or this is not a big deal. Or you need to get over it. But if we really sit down and take it into the child's perspective, it is a big deal. They don't know how to get over it. They don't know how to deal with the situation. Why don't they know? Because they've never been in this before. Like, I have to remind myself consistently that my children are literally experiencing life for the first time in many ways. Mm-hmm. There's so many things that they haven't experienced. There's so many things that they don't know how to handle. And so parenting is really the process of us giving our children the benefit of familiarity. You get angry, you get angry, you get angry, you get angry. Like, you're going to get angry throughout your life. You're going to be sad throughout your life. You're going to experience people coming against you throughout your life. Excuse me. And if each of those times we teach them a way to manage that, and the first time they do it, they don't do it at all. The second time they make an attempt, they feel like it doesn't work, they give up. The third time they do it terribly. The fourth time they do it terribly. The 67th time they do it terribly. The 100th time they still do it terribly, and they start giving up again. The 500th time it kind of goes well. We just changed the base of their familiarity. My familiarity is going to be different from my children's one. And that's the beauty of parenting, where you continue on from where your parents left off. Hopefully, you build a better base for them to live life off of. Even though you're imperfect and my parents were imperfect, they did better than their parents, right? And so parenting is really just being able to change the opportunities of what is familiar to Kaya, where when she becomes angry, what's familiar to her is to be able to manage her emotions, where I wasn't given that opportunity as a kid. Do I sit here and go, oh man? No, that's the truth. That's what happened. Maybe my parents didn't have the tools to be able to do that. It wasn't given to them, right? But now I can give that to Kaya. And then I'm constantly thinking about, what are the things that I didn't have that I could give her? Mm-hmm. What are the things that I do have that I can give her? What are the things that are my blind spots that I don't want to give her? And that, bringing it back to what you were saying about how in James it talks about, blessed are you when you go through various types of circumstances, because God is producing within you an endurance, right? And he's building within us like self-control and all these things, different things that he's doing for a reason. We don't know what that reason is, but he's changing the level of our familiarity. And I frequently think about our circumstances the last 2 to 3 years, and I'm like, yo, God, what are you preparing us for? Because this is a little wild out here in these streets. I was like, yo, God, what are you doing? Oh, you don't want to tell me? All right. Well, I'm here for the ride. You know, like, I'm here. Like, here I am. Like, I'm not leaving. Or at least I don't intend on leaving. I intend on staying. It's hard. It's stressful. It's messy. It's busy. It's all of the things. But I'm here. Do what you need to do to prepare me. Do what you need to do to get me ready. I'm here.
When I read that he's producing endurance, it actually gave me hope, because I was like, that means that there's something else. That means that there's something more. That means that this isn't forever. It's not staying like this forever.
Yeah.
That means that I'm not going to be at an entry level position anymore.
Yeah, right.
No, and I don't mean that like in the workforce. I mean in life.
Yeah, right.
That means that you're taking me up to breathe new air.
Yeah.
That I need to train for.
Right.
Because you can't just put me up there because then I'll suffocate.
And the beauty of that is that it points to his goodness. Messiness can point to God's goodness. It points to him as a good father. That he's intentional about preparing us for what he's giving to us. He's not just giving us a good thing. He prepares us for that good thing. That's his mercy and his kindness. So while it is tough, while it is messy, while it is hard, it's like he's not just going to throw you out there like, hey, yeah, you have the potential to do this thing. So go ahead, go figure it out. Nah, he is good. So he's going to take his time and he's going to allow the circumstances that need to come to fruition for you to be ready. And when it's his time, it's his time.
Yeah, and that's not to say that God just throws us out there to live a messy life. I think it gets messy and it feels messy because it's a shock.
Yeah.
Because when something is started in this, there's a cycle already. And then here comes God to bring order. It shocks the cycle. It interrupts the cycle.
Yeah.
And so it feels frantic. It feels like, whoa. Sometimes it's like, whoa. It's overstimulating maybe. Other times it's a relief. Other times it's like, oh, I feel like I can breathe again.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not like God says, here, take some mess. Take messiness. Let me throw messiness at you. That's not how God sees it at all. He's like, take some goodness. Here's some goodness.
Wow.
And you'll learn to see why it's good. Wow. But right now we see it as messy.
Yeah.
Or too busy. Or too much. When God called us to, when he did a few years back, it's been a lot, but I think God has taken some of the my characteristics and sharpened them and made them even better. And I'm so grateful because I'm able to teach my daughters that if life is life, and I can't always, we can't always take you out to the playground, or we can't always go to Applebee's. But we're going to go to BJ's and make it an adventure.
Yeah.
And along the ride, we're going to play I Spy with My Little Eye, and what's that sound? What do you hear? And I get to teach you about the different sounds and the atmosphere. And then I get to teach you how to listen past the noise of the city. And I get to teach you how to, I don't know, pick out food. And you get to cook with me. And then peeling a potato or cutting up a carrot is like the biggest thing in the world. And you learn to pour things, and now my daughters are asking me for fun, uppy, Lily, uppy, because she wants to cook with me.
Yeah.
Or Kaya, let's make pancakes. And that's fun.
Yeah.
Rather than, it's nice if I could take you to, if I could take you out every weekend to the zoo or to the Sesame Place, I don't know, whatever people do, or go book a flight somewhere. I would love to do that. But, this is where we are right now. I'm way too pregnant to be doing too many adventures anyway. So the adventure of making homemade snow and then letting you make a mess out of it, but that becomes a core memory for you.
Yeah.
Even though that means more work on me to then clean it up. But then you also get to focus on a client at the same time while I'm cooking. And so you get to work and then I get to.
It works.
And it's an adventure.
And the alternative is wanting them to be really structured and not be kids and sit down and not bother you and overstimulate you because you're cooking. And like, hey, figure it out. I know you're 3 and you're 1, but figure it out.
Yeah.
And nobody says that, but you know, I think that's somehow, and it doesn't have to be kids. It's like somehow we approach our life with, rather than applying intentionality to a situation that we can control in a certain way, just wanting things to just kind of like figure things out. Like if I was not intentional about going back to what I was saying earlier, if I was not intentional about waking up at 5 a.m., it's not going to happen. I have to figure it out. I have to build the system that supports that. So that means that by 9:30, I got to be in bed. If I'm going to bed every night at 11 o'clock, it's not going to happen, no matter how much I want it to. And I want it to. If I was playing on my PS5 every night till 11:30, it's not going to happen. Sometimes you got to give up things you want and you like to get what you need. And I think it's so interesting to me that yours is self-care, because it really points to how God made us naturally and what he's calling us to. Mm-hmm. Right? Like I've always been good at self-care. I've always been good at separating time. And while I don't feel full in that way like I used to, I know that right now that's not a priority for me. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I don't know if that makes sense. Like self-care should always be a priority, and I try to do it in small ways. But it's, if I have to pick between that and discipline right now in the season, no, it's not happening. You know I love my self-care. You know I love reading. You know I love reading my comic books. You know I love playing a game here and there. You know I like watching anime. I like all the things. I got a lot of hobbies. I like a lot of things.
Well, even that has been redefined for me, because I'm like, well, I don't necessarily like or want to get my nails. Not that I like my nails done, but I don't find it relaxing unless it's my pedicure. That's different because you're soaking in water or whatever. And you're getting the massage, but I don't want to do that all the time. I like the result of it, and that makes me feel good.
Yeah. Which is still self-care, by the way.
Right.
Because you like the result.
Right. But I started to see like, well, sometimes self-care doesn't look like something I'm enjoying in the moment, but it's the result of how it's going to make me feel for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
So time with God is self-care. Mm-hmm. God telling me to sit down and journal is self-care.
Yeah.
God telling me to sit down and paint is self-care. God telling me go to the gym is self-care, even if it might be a little bit hard with a super pregnant belly. Mm-hmm. It's not just self-care because it feels good, but it's also self-care because it's good for me.
Yeah.
And so, so it has been interesting because with each child, I've had something different that God's been working on for me. And I think it's so interesting how with this third child, he's like really trying to prepare me. Like, you're about to have a third one. You're really going to need to learn to self-care and fill your cup so that you're not running dry. Yeah. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, because your default is
to do.
Go.
Because that's already how we live life. But then I'm already a doer.
Right.
So.
I think this is a good spot to end. I am like so tired. I'm like falling asleep.
I'm always tired.
Not because of the conversation. I'm loving the conversation, but because of the day we had yesterday. He had not get enough sleep. So it's hilarious because it's like literally a result of what we're talking about in this episode. So, but I think we hit a lot of great points, and hopefully whoever stayed to the end will be able to enjoy some of that and get something from it. What do you think? Okay. So, you guys already know what to do. Hit all the buttons. And we will see you guys in the next episode. Have an amazing week. God bless you guys. Peace.